So it's October 7th, 1 year on from the worst atrocity against Jews since the Holocaust. And let's see where we are. So in Gaza, we currently have achieved nothing. Hamas is still inside, they're still entrenched. They've got no desire. Ceasefire deal after ceasefire deal has been thrown at them. They don't care. And the reason is they're currently being supplied by Israel themselves to stay alive. Right? Why should they surrender? It's a bit like, let's give an analogy, like Germany. You bomb the heck out of Berlin, but you say Munich is a safe zone, right? And so you keep going into Berlin and there's no Nazis there. You leave, and then you say, okay, I'll bomb Munich. You go into Munich and you make Berlin the safe zone. You go into Munich, no Nazis there because they've all shifted. And you keep doing this switcheroo, and every time there's no Nazis there, whilst supplying them all the food and stuff that they need. And then the Nazis are still in power and Hitler's still in power. What do you expect? So this is currently what's happened. Only maybe 10% of Gaza has been destroyed. And even then, they get free food, free fuel, free electricity, free internet, all by the Israelis. Why the heck would they surrender? They're totally fine. They're totally still in power. They have full control. Israel keeps going into these missions, going in, and there's no Hamas, and then leaving, and then Hamas goes back in. And then they go in, and there's no Hamas, and then they leave, Hamas goes back in. If you don't have territorial sovereignty, if you don't control that territory, you have nothing. And that's Israel. On the positive side, they did take the Philadelphia corridor, which was the supply route for Hamas from Egypt, our peace partner. All the stuff was coming in from Egypt. Everyone knew this. This was obvious when they did disengagement. This is like, 101, this was obvious to happen. There were even bridges, there were huge tunnels. We knew all this. So that, thank God, has been cut off. And so therefore Hamas, on the anniversary, could only fire a few pesky missiles today because they have been there. Effective, their capability, military capability, has been severely diminished to zero. But they're still in power. Okay, let's go to the north, Hezbollah. Okay, Pages took out the leader, doesn't matter. They can still keep firing, they can still keep shooting. They're doing very, very well. They have no, they've got, unless you incur totally into Lebanon, even go all the way to Beirut, nothing is going to change. They will keeping Israel pinned down. The whole point is to keep the north uninhabited. 100,000 Israelis cannot return to their homes after a year. There's no hope for them to return to their homes. 20% of the country is uninhabited, and that's all they care about. Just keep sending a few drones or missiles every day, and that's it. Just keep Israel pinned down, and without a full ground invasion, nothing will happen. This was, again, obvious day one, and it's a year, and a 10% budget deficit. Israel cannot keep this up. It is a war of attrition. Israel doesn't get this. They don't care. They'll keep doing this. It's only a few missiles, keeps Israel pinned down, spending money on stupid Iron Dome. This can go on forever for their case. Israel cannot afford this. Then we have Iran. Iran, as I explained last week, hit Israel's 3 main air bases massively. Didn't destroy them because it didn't put any warheads on them. It was just a message to say, we can hit anything we want. You cannot intercept them. You are totally vulnerable. You better stop. And that's why Israel has not retaliated. Israel will not retaliate. As I said to you exactly last week, they will do a pointless joke retaliation. Like, I don't know, they'll hit some little empty building or AA battery or some joke like that. But nothing major, because that's it. Israel is now totally at the hands. It cannot stop ballistic missiles coming in from Iran. It has no way to shoot ballistic missiles back at Iran. It has to use expensive F-35 that can joke little cruise missiles. It's stuck. So after a year, Israel has pretty much totally failed. And no one would have believed they would still be at war after a year. And now the difference between Israel and the Ukraine is massive. Ukraine is fully funded by America and Europe, and even by seized Russian assets. They stole the Russian assets and gave it to Ukraine to fund to beat Russia. So they're fine. They can keep going, right? Israel America does not provide anything, contrary to people's stupid beliefs. It's all on Israel's back, all buying ridiculously expensive American munitions, 1,500 for a 155 millimeter shell from the Americans, $60 for the Russians. 1,500, $60. Israel's being bled dry. It cannot keep this up. And that's it. That's all Iran wants, a war of attrition. It's not there to kill civilians. It's there to keep it going, keep the pressure, keep intercepting the missiles. We don't care. Every $1,000 missile we send, you have to spend $200,000 to intercept it. That's all they want. Bankrupt the country. And so while the West has been very supportive of Ukraine, giving them all the money, Israel cannot. It's bleeding its taxpayers dry. It cannot continue. Also with Ukraine, everyone's behind the sanctions. With Iran, they are now selling as much oil as they've ever had. The US has not imposed the sanctions that are on the books, that are there to be used, that are there to shut down companies. They are not doing that. They don't want oil to go up, so that's why they're not doing it. And so therefore giving them a free rein. Russia, they're imposing very, very tough sanctions everywhere, very, very difficult for Russians to transact and everything. They're really going after them in every country. But Iran, America has given them free rein. And so Israel has also lost all the global support. If it did, it was fake support anyway. Obviously, we all knew it was fake. Non-Jews, basically, these woke governments hate Jews. So France saying arms embargo, obviously the French always do that. Britain saying ceasefire in the north. Well, 1 second, Hezbollah was firing for the last year into Israel. You never asked for a ceasefire. Israel starts fighting back and you ask for a ceasefire. That's where we are, right? So every time Israel does something, ceasefire. Anytime they attack Israel, oh, thoughts and prayers, we're really with you. Yeah, we have your support. You have our support. We're not going to give you a penny. We're not going to give you a bullet. We're not going to even sell it to you. So they're all done. America's the only supplier, really. They're reluctant, slow walking any munitions, charging arm and a leg for pathetic munitions from America, requiring specific targets. The statistic was today, just came out, Israel has hit 4,900 targets in Lebanon over the year. Yeah, really? Well, the Russian shell rate is 10,000 shells per day in Ukraine. Per day. That's how many shells the Russians fire into Ukraine. And Israel, after a year, has hit 4,900 targets. I mean, it's literally using a water gun against a terrorist. That is what Israel's done. A joke, a big joke, laughable and funny. It's not achieved anything. It will not achieve anything. This can go on for years and years. And Israel does not have the ability financially, because it's spending out of its own money. It's not getting it from America. It's not getting it from those stolen assets. It's just paying it for itself. And it cannot continue like this. I'm shocked that they even have lasted a year, to be honest. It's quite impressive that they've done a whole year. Bibi is going to have to come to the conclusion. He has to siege Gaza, cut everything off, starve them. That's the only way. And that's the only way that Hamas will be overthrown, that the people inside will rebel. Hezbollah, he's going to have to go in. I thought up till the Litani River. I'm now thinking all the way to Beirut. It's going to be brutal. I don't know what to say. That is where Israel is now. And it cannot retaliate against Iran, remember. This is where Israel is at the moment. Extremely bleak. No end in sight. And yeah, it's a very sad situation. We are October 7th, 2024. Hostages nowhere near getting released. There's probably only about 20 left anyway. The north, 100,000 people still can't go back. No light in sight of that ending. And Iran even stronger than ever, with massive ballistic missile capability that no one thought possible. Israel thought, they got 10, 20, they'll fire. We've got Arrow 3, you'll be able to take them out. They fired 180 last week. 180. I don't know which country has 180. 180 with ease, which means they've got thousands. 180 ballistic missiles. Wow. With pinpoint accuracy. That's very impressive. So, yeah, know thy enemy. Israel knew all this. They knew Hamas was building tunnels. They knew it was all coming from Egypt. They knew Hezbollah was getting a rocket force. They knew Iran was building this ballistic missile. And because it didn't preempt, which is what Israel had to do every time, because of America, from the country who's backing it, the country that has never won a single war in 80 years, that spent $3 trillion and 20 years trying to get rid of the Taliban and replacing it with the Taliban. You know, you're led by monkeys. You're led by the United States, the worst country that has never won a war in 80 years, can never win a war, is incapable of winning anything, but doesn't care because it's isolated in its own continent. Israel is a tiny, surrounded by everyone country. It's currently being hit by Syria, by Iraq, by Yemen, by Lebanon, by Iran, and by its own territory. This is really bad. This is really bad. So until Israel is willing to take the gloves off, napalming South Lebanon, napalming all of Yemen, things like that, it will never end. Sorry.